This MotoGP mod was deemed illegal to use. Modifications for race bikes to be as fast as humanly possible is all part of the sport. But sometimes it can be so good that it's actually cheating. One piece of tech has caused a lot of controversy: ride height devices. But what exactly are these devices and why did MotoGP decide to ban them? Alright, quick breakdown. Ride height devices are strictly mechanical or hydraulic systems that adjust the bike's suspension to lower or raise its height during different phases of the race. A lower ride height means a lower center of gravity, which in turn allows you to accelerate harder without any of that power-sucking wheelie action. And higher ride height helps with bottoming out and stability. Pretty cool, right? The origin of a ride height device starts with the holeshot. If you follow motocross, you may have heard of holeshot devices. These are the little gadgets that have been around for decades, and they're the starting point for MotoGP's technical arms race, which began in the 2018 Motegi race with Jack Miller. Here's how it works. Before the start of the race, the driver will use his weight to compress the suspension, then turns a lever to engage the mechanism. Ducati's holeshot device then locks the rear shock into a compressed position just before the start. Nerd alert! It's important to note here that Ducati's actually compresses the rear shock, whereas other holeshot devices, especially in motocross, compress the front forks. Aprilia also has one that compresses the front as well. So why would you want one of these on your race bike? Because when the starting light goes out, a lower front end means you're less likely to wheelie, which means you have a better contact patch with the rear wheel, thus more power to the ground and a faster launch. But here's the catch. Once the rider hits the first corner, those braking forces push the suspension below the locking point and the device disengages automatically. After that, the bike is back to normal for the rest of the race. But what happens when teams start adapting this tech to the rest of the race? That's when things get really interesting. Ducati realized, wait a second, if we can control the ride height at the start of the race, why not during the race? This is because they're cute Italian mad scientists backed by a lot of money, and that's where the front ride height devices came in. Here's how it worked. Under braking, the front suspension locks down, lowering the bike. Why? A lower front end means less aerodynamic drag on the straights and better grip in the corners. But it also made the bike even harder to ride. Riders had to manage yet another system on an already demanding machine. It can malfunction and release too fast or too slow, both causing huge problems for the rider, even leading to a crash. And if it happens mid-corner, that's a nightmare. The bike's weight suddenly shifts, upsetting the balance just when the rider is at maximum lean. And at those angles, even a tiny disruption can mean a difference between holding the line or sliding out at 100 miles an hour. Or it may not engage quickly enough. Once again, big problems.
Comunque era difficile agganciare, anch'io facevo fatica.
Sì. Ieri non sono riuscito, ce l'ho fatto solo la scia.
Io davanti, guarda.
The sport's governing body had seen enough. The decision: ban front ride height devices. The official reason: safety and maintaining rider skill as well as a key factor in performance. Or maybe they were just jealous of Ducati's fat wallets. Rear ride height devices still allowed. For now. Once again, 2027 is going to be a huge year for MotoGP. But front ride height devices, gone. Because in MotoGP, the balance between technology and the spirit of racing is always shifting. Also, did you know MotoGP racers rarely use clear visors? Instead, they often go for tinted visors to reduce glare. Some visors are even rose tinted, which help them spot details in the asphalt more easily. And in rainy conditions, they use double glazed visors with a rubber seal to prevent fogging and keep water out. Because in pro racing, visibility is essential. Now, while these custom helmets can cost thousands of dollars, us everyday squids need something more practical. That's where Flying Eyes sunglasses come in. These glasses are built for motorcyclists. Ultra flexible, ultra durable, and designed to fit comfortably under a helmet. No more pressure points, no more headaches on long rides. Plus, their non-polarized lenses make it easier to spot road hazards like wet pavement and oil slicks. So whether you're tearing it up at the track, hitting the trails, or cruising the streets, upgrade your ride with Flying Eyes. Also, a lifetime warranty is included. And because you're watching this, use code DOODLE10 at checkout for 10% off your pair. All right, if there's one thing that defines MotoGP, it's speed. And when you're pushing over 220 miles per hour, aerodynamics become a game changer. In car racing, aerodynamics have been fine-tuned for decades, but motorcycles, it's a little bit of a different story. Active aerodynamics, a futuristic sounding term, but it's really just a way to control air over the bike in real time. The idea? Reduce drag in the straights, increase downforce in corners, and keep that front wheel glued to the ground under acceleration. And here's the kicker. Downforce is like that over-enthusiastic friend who clings to you for safety. While it gives you killer grip in the corners, it also drags you down on the straights. And that's why the trick is to dial it back when you need to let loose the speed, keeping your ride as nimble as it is aggressive. Imagine a bike that automatically changes its aerodynamics depending on what the rider is doing. A wing that flattens when blasting down a straight for more speed, then deploys in corners for extra grip. Sounds incredible, right? But here's the catch. The MotoGP rulebook wasn't ready for it. In 2016, Ducati shocked everybody by introducing winglets. They weren't active, but they worked. The problem? Rival teams argued they were too dangerous in close racing. The fear? A shattered winglet mid-race could turn into a high-speed shrapnel storm. So in 2017, MotoGP banned external winglets, but manufacturers found a loophole, integrating them inside of the fairing. Fast forward to 2019, Ducati introduced a controversial swing arm scoop. Was it for cooling, or was it another secret aero trick? The debates exploded. The response? MotoGP started cracking down again. By 2020, active aerodynamics, meaning anything that moved to adjust airflow, was explicitly banned. No automatic flaps, no dynamic winglets, and nothing that changed shape during a race. But here's the thing, MotoGP is a sport where innovation never stops. In teams, they're always looking for ways to push the limits. So while active aero is officially banned, static aero is evolving faster than ever. So the question isn't if aerodynamics will keep evolving in MotoGP, it's how far will teams go before the rulebook catches up again. So active aero is like having a savvy co-pilot constantly fine-tuning your bike's aerodynamics and setup, reading the track and adapting on the fly. But fixed winglets and strakes, they're the classic accessories that do their job no matter what, set in stone. And they can't adjust to the dynamic demands of a race. While winglets give you a one-size-fits-all boost, active aero systems morph in real time. So if you've watched MotoGP in the last decade, you've probably noticed these. Massive, almost alien-looking winglets sticking out of the front of the bikes. Alright, so quick breakdown. These winglets were designed to generate downforce, pushing the front wheel down under acceleration and reducing those power-robbing wheelies and helping riders control their bikes at better insane speeds. Ducati. It's always Ducati lately. Was really the first to go all in on these things back in 2015. Suddenly, their bike had a noticeable advantage in acceleration and corner stability. Other teams, well, they had to catch up, and fast. By 2016, winglets were everywhere, and this is kind of where things get tricky. MotoGP isn't just about speed, but it's also about close racing. And those big, sharp winglets, they created a huge safety concern. Imagine a rider clipping another bike's winglet at 200 miles an hour. Yeah, not great. So in 2017, the rulebook stepped in and MotoGP banned large external winglets, citing safety risks. But the manufacturers, they weren't done innovating. Instead of giving up on aerodynamics, teams adapted. By 2018, they started using integrated aero fairings, essentially winglets, but tucked inside the bodywork to stay within the rules. So while the huge external winglets are gone, aerodynamics, well, they're more important than ever. The battle between innovation and regulation in MotoGP, well, it never really stops. All right, so let's talk about the most shocking moments in MotoGP that actually ostensibly led to a ban. Let's talk about doping. In 2019, Andrea Ione tested positive for a banned substance. His defense? He claimed it was from contaminated meat. Because in Italy, sometimes you can get really special prosciutto that will boost your testosterone levels. So what did he get? A 4-year ban from MotoGP. Intentional or not, it's weird to say that it wasn't intentional. The sport doesn't take kindly to performance enhancers. And then there's interference. In 2022, 2 members of the Max Racing team were disqualified from back-to-back Grand Prix in Australia and Malaysia. Their crime? Messing with another team's rider. In a sport where milliseconds matter, gamemanship like this is not tolerated. But sometimes the problem isn't what a rider does, it's what they don't do. In 2022, Taka Nakagami was penalized for riding too slowly on a racing line. A seemingly small mistake, but in MotoGP that can be dangerous. The result, he was dropped several grid positions for the next race, which doesn't really do anything anyways. And then there's this. In 2018, during a Moto2 race, Romano Fantani squeezed another rider's brake lever at high speeds. Yeah, you heard that right. In the middle of a race at nearly 140 miles an hour. He reached over and grabbed the other bike's front brake. The result, immediate disqualification, a ban, and his racing license was revoked. Because in this sport where trust is everything, trying to kill someone is actually the ultimate betrayal. So what do all of these incidents tell us? That in MotoGP, every move matters. Because when you're racing at over 200 miles an hour, the difference between legend and infamy is just one decision away. So this really begs the question, what is going to happen in MotoGP in 2027? Well, you can find out right over here.